He was already the strongest sorcerer alive, so naturally, he decided the only way to get stronger was to die and be reborn with a weaker set of powers. Thousands of years later, that decision turns him into a 12-year-old boy walking into a magic school everyone assumes is beneath him, right up until he casually humiliates a knight captain, exposes a demon infiltrator, and gets personally invited to the king's palace. This is the story of Mathias, the strongest sage who simply refuses to stay unremarkable. Gaius the Sage is the strongest sorcerer the world has ever known. In this world, every mage is born with one of 4 crests dictating their magical talent: creation, rapid firing, close combat, or wordless casting. Gaius has already mastered his crest of creation completely, reaching heights no one else has ever touched, and he's still not satisfied, convinced he could be even stronger if he'd been born with the crest of close combat instead. Since crests can't be changed midlife, he does the only thing that makes sense to a man of his power. He chooses to die and reincarnate with the crest he actually wants. Thousands of years pass. Gaius is reborn as Mathias Hildesheimer, growing up in a small, peaceful town before heading to the capital at 12 to enroll in the Second Academy. Taking in the city's scale for the first time, he overhears a girl named Alma arguing furiously with a blacksmith inside a weapons shop. Curious, he wanders in to eavesdrop. It turns out her friend's magical sword shattered while protecting Alma from a monster, and with the Second Academy's entrance exam scheduled for the very next day, Alma desperately needs it repaired. But the blacksmith has no idea how to enchant a blade with magic, and tells her to look elsewhere. Sensing her desperation, Mathias offers to handle the enchantment himself if the smith forges the sword. The blacksmith is skeptical that anyone bearing the crest of close combat could pull that off, because somewhere between Gaius's era and the present, that once mighty crest has been quietly rebranded as the weakest of the 4, now openly mocked as the Crest of Failure. Alma, though, has a good feeling about him, and hands over her Magistone anyway. While they wait for the sword to be forged, her friend Luri Abendroth walks in, and she and Mathias instantly develop matching, flustered crushes on each other. Once the blacksmith finishes his work, Mathias sets the sword down, and with a single touch, enchants it with enhanced fortitude and a hardening technique called Sunder Steel, making it sturdy and perfectly sized for Luri to wield. Nobody can believe how easily and silently, without a single incantation, he just pulled that off. Testing the blade, Luri accidentally sliced clean through the shop's table with a light practice swing. The enchantment clearly works. The next day, Mathias, Luri, and Alma sit the Second Academy's practical entrance exam together. Luri sails through the swordsmanship portion using her newly enchanted blade, and once word spreads that Mathias was the one who enchanted it, the captain of the Knights of Guile personally decides to test him, promising to vouch for his admission outright regardless of any other scores if he can handle Guile's attacks. Mathias accepts without hesitation and disarms him almost instantly, leaving the stunned captain no choice but to concede. Next comes the casting exam, where each candidate must hit 5 targets with 5 arrows using incanted magic, a method technically inferior since it leaves the caster vulnerable mid-chant and wastes a huge portion of their energy in the conversion process. And yet, for reasons Mathias doesn't fully understand yet, incanted magic is considered the ideal combat style in this era, closely tied to the Crest of Creation, now proudly nicknamed the Crest of Glory. When his turn comes, Mathias takes a completely different approach. His Crest of Close Combat, despite its fallen reputation, actually excels at short-range wordless casting. He unleashes a silent spell that strikes all 5 targets simultaneously, though the lack of precision also levels a good chunk of the school grounds in the process. The crowd watches in stunned silence, witnessing true wordless casting for the first time in living memory. All 3 of them pass and become classmates. At the opening ceremony, Headmaster Edward delivers a brief address before singling Mathias out of the crowd and asking him to stop by his office. Bracing for the worst, Mathias is stunned instead to be praised for his prodigious swordsmanship and wordless casting. Edward confirms Mathias's growing suspicion. Wordless magic is a genuinely lost art, deliberately and systematically erased from the curriculum by the rival First Royal Academy. Hoping to revive it, Edward asks Mathias to personally teach the Second Academy students wordless casting in time for the upcoming inter-school competition, so they can prove its worth on a public stage. Mathias agrees, demonstrating the technique himself before running his classmates through the basics. Within a month, most of them have picked it up. On the day of the competition, Mathias senses something deeply wrong, a presence radiating 10 times more magical power than an average human, equivalent to a full demon. Walking into the arena, Mathias spots 3 First Academy opponents and instantly identifies the one standing in the center as a demon in disguise, complete with a fake crest to pass as human. The other 2 attack first, but their incantations are far too slow, and Mathias drops them both with a single wordless spell. Left alone, the demon panics and activates his spell early while still pretending to chant, confusing the entire crowd watching. Mathias closes the distance with his sword, forcing the demon airborne where it retaliates with wordless magic of its own, a technique that shouldn't exist among humans anymore. Striking true, Mathias shatters the demon's disguise entirely, exposing its real form in front of the whole school. It's the proof he needed. Demons infiltrated the First Academy generations ago and smeared the reputation of the powerful crest of close combat, engineering humanity's growing reliance on the weaker, more vulnerable incanted style. As the demon tries to flee, Mathias severs one of its wings mid-flight and finishes it off. Act 4. An Audience with the King. Mathias and Headmaster Edward are summoned to the royal palace to be rewarded for defeating a demon in public. Rather than gold or titles, Mathias requests unrestricted access to the kingdom's dungeon resources, once considered priceless treasure troves of rare ores and monster artifacts back in Gaius's era, though their true value has since been forgotten. The king grants it, then asks his read on a troubling mystery, the sudden, unexplained disappearance of the kingdom's chosen ones, an elite title given to its strongest mages. Mathias deduces immediately that all of them must have been demons in disguise, fleeing now that their cover at the First Academy has been publicly blown. He warns the king they should expect the demons to regroup and launch a full assault on the capital within roughly 3 months, and recommends constructing a magical barrier around the city, built by the combined effort of the Second Academy students, along with a full transition to wordless magic training. The king agrees to both and puts Mathias in charge of the kingdom's defense against the coming attack. Digging through the treasury for divine-tier artifacts to power the barrier, Mathias recognizes a particular sword's enchantment patterns instantly. It's one of his own creations from his previous life as Gaius. He claims it, along with a blue pendant he also once made, capable of boosting the wearer's experience gains. Still needing more materials, he decides to head into the dungeons. Act 5. Building a Party. Back at school, Mathias invites Alma and Luri to join him as a proper adventuring party, though both hesitate, worried they'd only slow him down. Alma had once been discouraged from archery since it doesn't traditionally pair well with enchanted magic, and Luri still lacks real confidence with a blade. Mathias solves both problems on the spot, enchanting an arrow with simple, wordless magic that causes anything it strikes to explode, turning Alma's archery into a genuinely valuable combat skill, especially given her natural affinity with the rapid-firing crest. He promises to help Luri grow into her own crest of creation as well, ironically the very crest he abandoned by reincarnating in the first place. Reassured and excited, both girls agree to join him. In the dungeon's first floor, Mathias trains them directly.
Alma quickly masters thread-guided magical arrows, capable of changing direction mid-flight to strike multiple targets, then heads off alone to gather Magistones for the barrier. Meanwhile, Luri learns the fundamentals of enchanting, starting with extracting and purifying raw ore straight out of the dungeon's walls, successfully drawing pure mithril and iron with her own hands. By the time Alma returns, Luri already understands the basics of crafting enchanted weapons. Pleased with their rapid progress, Mathias takes the party down to the 10th floor to properly test what they've learned. The girls handle themselves impressively, working in sync, until a ferocious killer dog nearly catches Alma off guard. Luri saves her with a quick firewall spell, giving Alma the opening to finish it off cleanly. Proud of their teamwork, Mathias sets up a safe rest area and heads even deeper alone, aiming for the 25th floor to retrieve rare adamantite ore, brushing off Alma's shock that the previous record, set by a 30-person party supposedly led by someone also named Gaius, only reached 23rd floor. He chalks up the coincidence and presses on, eventually facing an arc serpent, an aggressive, venom-lunging monster whose scales barely register his sword strikes. Crushing a Magistone to channel a surge of raw magical energy into his blade, he finally obliterates it in one devastating strike. Act 6. Demons, a Dragon, and a Spy. Selling the serpent's remains at the guild nets the party a fortune of 750 gold coins, split evenly 3 ways. Walking through town afterwards, Mathias senses 2 demons heading towards the academy, one relatively weak, the other stronger than the one he'd already defeated in the competition. Splitting up, Mathias engages the stronger threat, while the girls handle the weaker one using enchanted arrows from Luri's Magitoxin, a substance that specifically drains a demon's magical reserves. Mathias, lacking the raw magic needed to overpower his opponent directly, instead seizes control of its own spell mid-cast and uses it against it, eventually breaking through its unblockable wide-range attack by targeting its precise weak point. The first time in the demon's entire life anyone has managed that. He finishes the fight decisively, sealing the demon's fate before it can trigger a suicidal monster summoning last resort. Meanwhile, the weaker demon, seeing its stronger partner defeated, tries fleeing, only for Alma and Luri to clip its wings and force it to the ground. The following day, the king invites the trio back to the palace to reward their bravery. While the girls happily accept money, Mathias suddenly stands and demands an unseen imposter reveal himself. A hidden spy named Elhart, a former Chosen One turned demon spy, is exposed hiding in the ceiling via a long-range interface spell used to monitor the throne room, and crucially, capable of pinpointing his hideout's exact location, a village the demons destroyed years ago. Too far to reach conventionally and still lacking the strength for teleportation, Mathias picks a different solution entirely: a literal dragon. He leads the girls to a mountain where a terrifying dragon named Iris resides, the very same dark dragon he'd once fought and later befriended in his previous life. She doesn't recognize this new form at first and threatens to burn him where he stands. But once he dissolves her dark breath attack by striking its weak point and reveals he's Gaius reincarnated, she immediately drops to apologize. Her wings, it turns out, are damaged ever since a chain reaction of magical reactor explosions set human civilization back to the Stone Age after Gaius's original disappearance, explaining humans' massive regression in magical knowledge. Mathias repairs her wings well enough to fly, and delighted, Iris takes to the sky for the first time in 5,000 years to carry the party to Elhart's hideout. Act 7. The Higher One. At the village, Mathias undoes Elhart's concealment spell, and the demon attacks immediately. While Mathias dodges his strikes, Alma peppers him with Magitoxin-laced arrows, slowly draining his strength until he finally notices and, enraged at being beaten by tiny humans, activates Atrocify, a demon technique that grants a massive power boost at the cost of his own life once his magic dries run. Mathias tricks him with an illusion spell, luring him into attacking projections of Alma and Luri instead, delivering a crushing dose of Magitoxin. Alma finishes him with one final arrow to the head. Sending the girls to wait safely with Iris, Mathias descends alone to face a far stronger demon he'd sensed earlier, deliberately provoking a fight by crushing magic stones to lure it out. The demon slices off his arm entirely, exactly as Mathias planned, having precast an analysis and restoration spell on the limb beforehand, letting him reattach it while simultaneously gathering intel on the demon's magic. Using that knowledge, he dodges every subsequent attack, gashes its hand, and nullifies its follow-up spell entirely. The enchanted wound he left on its hand starts absorbing ambient magical energy, and when he crushes another Magistone to overload it, the resulting explosion reveals something the demons had been deliberately hiding: a dragon vein pillar, an immense source of raw power the enemy had planned to use to unleash a horde of monsters directly on the capital. Fortunately, the explosion knocks its target several miles off course, buying the humans crucial time to prepare. Act 8. A dragon joins the class. The party returns to the academy with Iris now in human form, and Mathias requests she be allowed to enroll as a student. The headmaster agrees, provided she passes the entrance exam with a score of at least 47 out of 50. Unfamiliar with human society, she spectacularly fails the written portion. In her swordsmanship test against the same knight captain who tested Mathias, she casually catches his blade barehanded mid-swing before swinging her own sword like a baseball bat and sending him flying into a rooftop. Her magic exam goes similarly, with her charged-up spell obliterating not just her 5 targets, but most of the school grounds along with them. Faced with a student possessing near-calamity-level magic, the headmaster has little choice but to accept her regardless of the paperwork. Elsewhere, the Academy needs help gathering ore for the barrier from the arrogant rival First Royal Academy, home to most of the Crest of Creation specialists. Its equally arrogant headmaster flatly refuses to acknowledge the Second Academy's earlier victory and considers them beneath his notice. Mathias proposes another competition. Either side sends as many participants as they choose, loser does whatever the winner asks, on the condition Mathias himself stays out of it, which the rival headmaster happily accepts. On the day of the rematch, the First Academy sends a huge group of their best students, while the Second Academy fields only 5, none of them even bearing the Crest of Creation. As the First Academy students begin their lengthy incantations, the 5 wordless casting students demolish them before they can finish chanting. Watching from above, the king personally has the rival headmaster arrested for treason, having continued teaching incanted magic against direct royal orders. With him removed, the First Academy students are placed under the Second Academy's guidance and happily transition to wordless casting themselves, evidently just as tired of their old headmaster as everyone else. Act 9. The Barrier and the First Attack. While the combined student body mines Mithril for the barrier, Mathias takes his party and Iris deeper into the dungeons hunting for a rare monster capable of producing a 60-centimeter magic stone to serve as the barrier's core, and to test whether Iris can adapt properly to her new human body. Asking her to slowly infuse magic into a summoning stone, her definition of slowly ends up summoning a dragon far more powerful than intended. Iris distracts it by trading insults in dragon tongue, while Mathias quietly rigs multiple casting circles around it, then has her provoke it into unleashing its own dragon breath, which his circles instantly reverse and redirect, incinerating the attacking dragon with its own attack. Impressed with the successful test, Mathias formally invites Iris into the party, training her to move naturally in her new body, while Luri levels up her own enchanting skills, eventually crafting powerful custom weapons for every member of the group. On the day the barrier is finally set to activate, Mathias detects an enormous magical presence looming above the academy, the demons, attempting to teleport an attack in directly before the barrier can finish forming. With his hands full completing the ritual, Mathias asks Alma and Luri to buy him time. A powerful demon named Majerone bursts through a portal, blasting the students with fire. forcing them into a defensive magical shield, while Luri desperately tries and repeatedly fails to complete a casting circle under pressure, until watching her classmates risk everything to protect her gives her the resolve to finally succeed. Alma's shot pierces Majoron clean through the chest, and just as more demons pour through the portal threatening to overwhelm everyone, Mathias arrives, having just finished the barrier, and single-handedly wipes out every last one of them to the students' roaring cheers. He activates the barrier with the final magic stone, and a shimmering iridescent dome rises to protect the entire kingdom. The fight isn't quite over. Monsters summoned earlier by the Dragon Vein Pillar finally arrive near the capital, and the students, followed by Mathias's own party, clear out 2 waves of them before facing a Void Eater, a monster that grows stronger by devouring others. Rather than kill it quickly, an unbothered Mathias actually feeds it more magic stones first to maximize the resources they'll harvest once it's dead, then cuts its head clean off. With the immediate crisis resolved, Mathias asks to leave the academy to search for more Dragon Vein Pillars. The headmaster agrees to keep him and his party listed as special scholarship students, ensuring the school's resources remain available to them on their travels, and the group departs. Act 10. Corruption in Melchia. Their first destination is the Melchia Dungeons, where an entire adventuring city has sprung up since Mathias's original disappearance, though the city itself feels eerily bleak and empty on arrival. A nearby magic lamppost, powered directly and dangerously by raw dragon vein energy instead of a stable magic stone, explodes right in front of them, and a local vendor explains the current lord has banned traditional magic stones to protect his most lucrative exports, while sending most of the city's adventurers to fight a powerful monster on the 4th floor of the dungeon, emptying the streets. At the guild, the party learns that anyone seeking dungeon access needs an official permit, one that effectively makes its holder a lord's personal servant, forced into whatever dangerous missions he demands. Undeterred, they apply anyway. Before the paperwork finishes, a panicked woman rushes in asking for anyone who can perform healing magic, since most of the city's actual healers were dismissed by the Lord as a wasteful expense, leaving countless wounded adventurers untreated. Mathias volunteers immediately, triaging patients by severity, brushing off skeptical medics who doubt some kid with the Crest of Failure by successfully healing the most critical case first, then leading a coordinated effort that saves every single patient.
Grateful, the lead medic reveals the previous lord died suddenly and mysteriously in his sleep. Mathias suspects demons killed him and installed a replacement of their own. He secretly writes to the headmaster, using a decoy letter with a false bottom to avoid detection, since anything leaving the city is likely inspected. When the party sells a monster skull from a preliminary dungeon dive, one that turns out to be the very creature responsible for killing numerous local adventurers, the guild receptionist is stunned, requiring the Lord's personal verification before releasing payment, and pointedly writes to him describing the girls as impressively strong, while dismissing Mathias as a harmless healer uninvolved in actual combat. As anticipated, the Lord dispatches thugs to intimidate the party into servitude. Mathias, expecting exactly this, lets himself get taken hostage, while the girls confront the goons directly, with Iris effortlessly knocking every one of them out barehanded. He plants tracking and demon detection spells on the unconscious thugs to confirm his suspicions. The next day, a royal messenger delivers formal authorization from the king to arrest the corrupt lord. Using his tracking spells, Mathias pinpoints the lord's hideout, and the party storms in, cutting through waves of hidden goons, Luri shielding the group from an ambush of spells, Mathias dropping the rest in a single stroke, before finding and subduing the lord himself with a simple snap of his fingers. Searching the wreckage, they find remnants of a magical letter confirming the demons have located the dragon vein beneath the city's dungeons. Dangerous knowledge that in the wrong hands could trigger a global catastrophe. Act 11. The Voice Behind the Curtain.
Tremors shake the basement immediately. The demons are already using the vein to summon a monster horde, with roughly 2 hours before it reaches the city. Splitting up, Lurie works to nullify the corrupted Vane's magic, while Alma and Iris hold off incoming monsters, and Mathias descends alone to confront the demons directly, staying in constant telepathic contact with the others. He finds a single demon clearly taking orders from someone much more powerful, communicating through him via a hidden telepathic link. Their fight escalates quickly. The demon's explosive barrier, ranged-only attacks meant to counter Mathias's close combat specialty, and a coordinated pincer strategy using casting circles Lurie prepares remotely. Cutting off the demon's communication link and shattering its barrier in the process, Mathias overhears the mysterious higher-up wondering aloud whether he might actually be Gaius reincarnated, meaning whoever speaking must be an ancient demon old enough to remember him personally. Ordered to unleash a last-resort transformation, the demon proves no match regardless, and Mathias beheads it while Lurie successfully neutralizes the corrupted vein, dispersing the monster horde entirely. Determining the true mastermind's identity becomes the party's next challenge, clearly a threat on an entirely different scale than anything they faced so far. Mathias preserves a recording of the demon's communication spell inside a Magistone, explaining that an ancient device capable of reading it and pinpointing the master demon's location exists across the border in the Redenia Alliance. Deciding it's easiest to cross with royal backing, the party returns to the capital, finding both academies now working side by side rebuilding the second academy's grounds. With the king's written permit in hand, they set off for Redenia, only to learn the device sits inside a restricted zone accessible only to A-rank adventurers. Act 12. The A-rank test. At Redenia's guild, the party is informed everyone must pass a mock combat test with an assigned proctor before entering the restricted region. That proctor turns out to be Julius, one of Redenia's famous S-rank adventurers, who passes Iris, Alma, and Lurie without so much as a fight, but insists on personally dueling the increasingly well-known Demon Slayer himself. Julius claims to fight without magic at all, though Mathias quickly noticed he's actually casting unconscious enchantments on his own body and sword, an impressive instinctive skill most people could never replicate deliberately. Evenly matched swordsman to swordsman, Mathias eventually ups the stakes by incorporating magic, and Julius, facing a genuinely formidable opponent for seemingly the first time in his life, tries mirroring the same technique, but his inexperience costs him the match. Afterwards, curious how to grow that strong himself, Julius receives a personal spellcasting guide written by Mathias. Having always dismissed magic as inherently vulnerable due to its reliance on spoken incantations, Julius is stunned to learn wordless casting has no such weakness, and that he's already been using it unknowingly this whole time. Newly motivated, he resolves to master combat magic properly. With their A-rank credential secured, the party heads into the restricted Melchia region. At a checkpoint, Mathias detects a hidden demon tracking spell embedded in their travel passes, marking them as threats to be dealt with, confirming the entire Melchia region has likely fallen under demon control. Act 13. Melchia and the Demi-Demons. Sure enough, a large group of bandits waits in ambush along the road ahead. Mathias slips Alma and Lurie a sleeping potion to knock the bandits out quietly, while he and Iris draw their attention as a distraction, though the plan backfires slightly when the sleeping gas knocks out Alma and Lurie too, requiring a quick wake-up before continuing. Approaching Melchia City, both Lurie and Mathias detect over 30 distinct magical signatures, devastating news since it means the entire city is overrun by demi-demons, a lesser demon subtype unable to cast individual spells but capable of coordinating flawlessly through a shared hive consciousness. Rather than walk in through the front gates, Mathias uncovers a hidden passage the demi-demons likely use themselves, and the party sneaks into the city's center to find every townsperson wandering aimlessly like mindless zombies. They locate a long line of pavilions filling into a factory, where a demon casts a thought paralysis spell to force them into mindless labor. Mathias counters the spell on himself and the girls, letting them pretend to be under its influence and slip inside to investigate, only to discover the horrifying truth. Enslaved humans are being forced to refine rankine, a volatile magical mineral capable of leveling an entire kingdom in sufficient quantities. Unwilling to let that stand, the party formulates a plan exploiting the demi-demon's shared consciousness. Mathias deliberately exposes Iris's massive magical signature as bait, luring several demons out to investigate, and the moment they arrive, the party strikes them down together. The sudden loss sends the demi-demon's shared consciousness into a frenzy, as more than half their forces are wiped out in an instant. Their leader finally descends personally to assess the damage, ordering the survivors to regroup and detonate their stockpiled rankine explosives as a last resort. A plan foiled the moment two more of his demons are struck down right in front of him. Fortunately, Julius happens to be visiting Melchia and jumps into the fight to help. Chapter 14. A Voice from the Dungeon. While Iris and Mathias mop up the remaining demi-demons, Julius clashes blades with the leader himself, using techniques pulled straight from Mathias's own spellbook, pushing his opponent to the absolute limit and defeating him by the narrowest of margins. But just as it seems over, the fallen leader's eyes suddenly glow red, and he rises again, charging directly at Mathias. Blocking the attack, Mathias hears the exact same voice that once commanded the demon back in the Melchia dungeon, speaking through the demi-demon's mouth, threatening to come after Mathias personally once his seal finally breaks and he's fully revived. The demi-demon's body then disintegrates entirely. The free townspeople slowly regain their senses, thoroughly disoriented, and a high-ranking adventurer named Gaius temporarily takes charge of the city until order can be restored. Before the party moves on, Mathias looks forward to seeing how much Gaius grows in strength by the time their paths cross again. Finally reaching the ancient device's location, hidden beneath a pyramid-like structure only openable through a specific enchantment, Mathias nearly slips and reveals he personally built the device himself as Gaius thousands of years ago. Once unlocked, the pyramid rises to reveal a hidden underground passage where the device sits perfectly preserved. While Mathias prepares it for activation, the others search the ruins for valuables, mortified to find nothing but a collection of embarrassingly gimmicky weapons Gaius apparently made purely for fun in his previous life. Once ready, the device successfully analyzes even the faintest magical signatures left on the recorded Magistone, revealing the true mastermind's identity, Zardius, a demon so catastrophically powerful that even the mages of Gaius's own era couldn't destroy him outright, forced instead to seal him away magically. Worse still, that seal is nearly broken, and at their current strength, the party stands no realistic chance against him. Finale, the sword that demands a death. As a last resort, Mathias has the device analyze one of Gaius's old gimmicky weapons, pinpointing the location of another, far more serious sword he'd once forged, conveniently gathering dust in the capital's treasury. The party races toward the capital on Iris's back in dragon form, only to feel an overwhelming magical presence catching up with them along the way. Zardius has fully broken free of his seal and is already in pursuit. Mathias hands Alma and Luri Magistones and sends them ahead to retrieve the sword from the treasury, while he stays behind to hold Zardius off personally. Zardius arrives over the capital through a portal. Iris unleashes her full dragon breath directly at him, and it doesn't leave so much as a scratch. Overwhelmed by the sheer gap in power, Mathias takes a direct hit he can't dodge, and Zardius reveals, almost casually, that he's resurrected every demon they've previously killed throughout the capital. Meanwhile, Alma and Luri reach the treasury, initially denied access without royal authorization, until the king himself arrives and personally orders the guards to stand down and let them in. Locating the sword, they rush to deliver it, running straight into the weaker demon they defeated once before, only to dispatch it with ease now, having grown considerably stronger since their last encounter. A far more dangerous demon appears next, taking 2 Second Academy classmates hostage to blackmail the girls into surrendering the sword. Cornered, they lower their weapons. Back on the battlefield, Mathias, nearly drained of magic entirely, briefly considers whether he should sacrifice what little power remains to reincarnate once more in the next era, hoping Zardius' strength will have weakened somewhat by then. But he can't bring himself to abandon his friends to die alongside the current civilization. Refusing to give up, he burns through his own life energy to boost his magical output just enough to hold the line until the sword reaches him. At the treasury, a group of Second Academy students arrives just in time to rescue the hostages, and Alma and Lurie finally hurl the sword towards Mathias, but the instant he turns to grab it, Zardius stabs him clean through the heart, killing him instantly. What Zardius doesn't realize is that the sword's true activation condition is the wielder's own death. The moment Mathias falls, the blade revives him on the spot, flooding his body with an overwhelming surge of magical power. Armed with this newfound strength, Mathias delivers one final decisive blow, reducing Zardius to nothing but ash. The crisis is finally over, and peace returns to the world. Alma, Lurie, Iris, and Mathias share a joyful, tearful reunion. Having completely exhausted his magical reserves, Mathias returns to the Second Academy as an ordinary student while he slowly recovers. In gratitude for their heroism, the king rewards the party with anything they desire. For Iris, that means an absolutely enormous quantity of food. Mathias, for his part, crafts Lurie a beautiful pendant out of rare ore he purchases specifically for her. From there, he spends the rest of his reincarnated life steadily leveling up his once-mocked crest of close combat, adventuring alongside the incredible party he's built, well on his way to becoming once again the strongest sage of an entirely new era. That's the story of a legendary sorcerer who was already the best in the world and chose to start completely over just to prove he could get even better. If you want to see how much further Mathias' story goes from here, go check out the full series for yourself and let me know in the comments which of his crests you think is secretly the strongest.